Everyone is chasing something. A better life, more money, deeper relationships, a version of themselves that feels whole, complete, and finally free from the weight of wanting. And most people are running toward those things with white knuckles and a clenched jaw, convinced that the harder they push, the faster it arrives. That if they just work longer, worry more, and sacrifice everything they have right now for the promise of something better later, the life they want will eventually show up and reward them for their suffering. But what if that belief is the very thing standing in the way? The Stoics discovered something that contradicts almost everything modern culture teaches about success. They discovered that the quality of your pursuit matters more than the intensity of it. That desperation is not a strategy. That anxiety is not ambition. And that the tightest grip is often the one that destroys what it is trying to hold. Think about water for a moment. Water does not fight the rocks in its path. It does not exhaust itself trying to break through what resists it. It flows around, over, and through every obstacle until it has shaped the entire landscape. Not through force, through patient, persistent movement in alignment with its own nature. That is what the Stoics understood about manifestation. Not the modern version of manifestation that fills social media with vision boards and affirmations. The deeper, more ancient version. The understanding that when you align your inner world with what you want to create in the outer world, and when you remove the desperate energy that is actually blocking your path, what you desire begins to move toward you as naturally as water finds the sea. This is not about giving up on your dreams. This is not about lowering your standards or accepting less than you deserve. This is about understanding how abundance actually moves, how it flows, and more importantly, what has been stopping it from reaching you. The Stoics were not passive men. Marcus Aurelius did not meditate on acceptance from the comfort of a palace untouched by difficulty. He led an empire through plagues and wars and political betrayals while writing his private thoughts about how to stay grounded and clear. Epictetus did not discover wisdom in comfort. He discovered it in chains, as a slave who had everything taken from him and still found a way to be free inside his own mind. Seneca did not write about wealth from a place of poverty. He was one of the richest men in Rome and still concluded that the man who craves more is the true definition of poor. These were warriors. But they fought differently. They fought with clarity, with discipline, and with an understanding of human desire that most people never reach in a lifetime. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 principles drawn from that understanding. Not 10 motivational phrases, not 10 things to write in your journal and forget by Thursday. 10 actual shifts in how you think, how you move, and how you relate to everything you want. When these principles become part of how you live, you stop chasing your life, and your life begins to meet you. Before we go further, if this already speaks to something inside you, hit the like button right now. And if you want to anchor this intention from the very beginning, drop this in the comments. When I relax, life flows to me. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of the journey. The first principle is detached desire. Here is the paradox that most people spend their entire lives trying to solve without realizing what the actual problem is. The more desperately you want something, the further away it feels. And the moment you genuinely release that desperation, not pretend to release it, not perform peace while still panicking on the inside, but actually let go of the need for it to happen on your terms, things begin to move. Epictetus taught that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This is not a call to be indifferent to success. It is a call to understand the critical difference between wanting something and needing it. That difference is everything. When you need something, you leak desperation into every decision you make, into every conversation, into every opportunity that crosses your path. People feel it even when you think you are hiding it. Circumstances reflect it back to you in ways that confirm your fear. And the very thing you are chasing senses that energy and pulls away from it because desperation repels in every dimension of life. Think about the person who needs validation desperately. The more they chase it, the more people instinctively pull back. Or the person who needs a specific outcome from a business deal so badly that their anxiety floods every negotiation and the other party can feel the imbalance. Neediness is visible. It changes the chemistry of every room you walk into. But when you want something while being genuinely at peace without it, something shifts entirely. You stop operating from scarcity. You stop making decisions from fear. You begin to move from a place of confidence, and confidence is magnetic in a way that desperation never will be. Confident people attract. Desperate people repel. That is not cruelty. That is simply how energy works. The Stoics called this preferred indifference. You prefer success, you prefer abundance, you prefer love and health and freedom and every beautiful thing life has to offer. But your inner peace does not depend on them arriving on your timeline. Your sense of worth is not held hostage by whether they come at all. You are whole right now, complete right now, and from that wholeness, you pursue. This is not resignation. This is power, because when you are no longer desperate, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You think clearly when others are clouded by anxiety. You act boldly when others are paralyzed by the fear of losing. You make moves that the desperate version of you would never have dared because you are no longer operating from the need to survive. You are operating from the desire to expand. Hold your desires the way you would hold a butterfly resting on your palm, with complete intention, with full awareness, but without closing your fist. The moment you squeeze, it is gone. If that landed, seal it in the comments. I desire with peace, not desperation. The second principle is presence as your greatest asset. Most people spend their days living everywhere except where they actually are. Mentally replaying conversations that ended months ago, rehearsing responses to problems that have not happened yet, scrolling through other people's lives while their own life waits quietly for their attention. And in doing so, they miss the only place where anything real can ever occur: the present moment. Seneca wrote that true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. But this is not just philosophy. This is practical strategy for anyone who wants to create something meaningful. Every opportunity you have ever received came through a present moment. Not through a moment you were anxious about 3 days from now. Not through a moment you were replaying from 6 months ago. A conversation you were actually in, a door you noticed because your eyes were open and your mind was quiet enough to see it. An instinct you followed because you were present enough to hear your own inner guidance. None of those things are available to the scattered mind. Presence is not just awareness, it is energy. And it is one of the rarest forms of energy in the modern world. When you are fully here, you operate at a level that most people around you simply cannot access. You hear what is actually being said beneath the surface of what is being spoken. You see what is actually in front of you, rather than what your anxious imagination is projecting. You feel the subtle signals that point toward your next move before they become obvious to anyone else. The most magnetic people you will ever meet are not the ones with the most impressive credentials or the loudest presence in the room. They are the most present. They look you in the eye when you speak. They respond to what is real rather than reacting to what is in their head. They make you feel like the only person in the room because for that moment you genuinely are. That quality is rare. And it draws people in, draws opportunities in, draws everything in that your distracted mind has been missing while it was somewhere else. There is also something deeper happening when you are truly present. You stop carrying the weight of every past failure and every future fear into each new moment. You arrive clean, and that cleanness, that openness, creates space for things to enter that your overcrowded mind would have had no room to receive. Your breath is the fastest path back to now. When your mind drifts into what if, or if only, return to the breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice what your senses are actually receiving right now. Come back to this moment, not because the future does not matter, but because the future is built entirely from what you do here. The third principle is making resistance your teacher. Life will obstruct you. That is not a possibility. It is a certainty. The path between where you are and where you want to be will contain obstacles, setbacks, rejections, detours, and moments where everything you have built seems to be falling apart at once. The only variable in that equation is how you respond to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote these words in the middle of a plague that was killing thousands across his empire during a military campaign, surrounded by political betrayal at the highest levels of Roman power. And yet he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These were not the words of a man protected from difficulty writing inspirational phrases from a safe distance. These were the private thoughts of a man standing inside the fire, choosing how to relate to it. Most people meet an obstacle and immediately conclude that the universe is working against them. They interpret difficulty as a sign to stop. They take rejection personally and let it tell them a story about who they are and what they deserve. They let one closed door convince them that all doors are closed. And then they retreat into comfort and call it wisdom. But consider the oyster. The irritation of a grain of sand does not destroy it. It creates a pearl. The very thing that caused discomfort, the very thing the oyster had no choice but to work around, becomes the source of its greatest value. What looked like an obstacle was actually the mechanism of transformation. Your obstacles are not punishments for your failures or proof that you are not meant for the life you want. They are preparation. Every setback is making you stronger, more capable, more precise, and more ready for the level you are asking for. The challenge you are facing right now is not blocking your path. It is part of the path. It is the path teaching you something that the smooth road never could. When you truly accept this, resistance stops draining you. You stop pouring your most valuable energy into fighting what is, into raging against what cannot be changed right now, into the exhausting work of resisting reality. And you redirect every ounce of that energy into navigating through what is. You become like water. Flexible, persistent, and ultimately unstoppable because you do not need the obstacle to move. You just need to find the way around it, over it, or through it. The next time something does not go according to your plan, pause before you react. Let the first wave of frustration pass. And then ask what this is teaching you. Ask how this is making you more ready. Ask what opportunity might be hidden inside this obstacle that you cannot see yet because you are too close to the disappointment. You will not always find the answer immediately, but the question itself will change how you move through it. If you are ready to grow through the hard moments rather than be broken by them, drop this in the comments. I grow stronger through resistance, not weaker. The fourth principle is reclaiming your inner authority. You have been giving your power away, not necessarily to enemies, not to people who are trying to take it from you, to something far more ordinary and far more dangerous, to circumstances, to opinions, to numbers on a screen, and reactions from people who do not know your full story and never will. Epictetus said, "No one can hurt you without your permission." But this goes deeper than emotional protection. It goes to the very foundation of how you manifest anything in your life. Think about how many times you have made your own peace conditional. I will feel confident when I reach this income level. I will be happy when this relationship is secure. I will finally relax once this problem is resolved, once this person approves, once this number hits. You have turned your internal state into something that external events must authorize before you are allowed to access it. And you have been waiting your entire life for that authorization to arrive. This is exhausting, and it is also the core reason why manifestation feels so painfully out of reach for most people. Because you are trying to attract abundance from a place of lack. You are trying to draw in confidence while broadcasting insecurity. You are trying to magnetize success while your entire internal system is operating on the frequency of not yet, not enough, not ready. The internal and external are always in conversation. What you genuinely feel on the inside is always shaping what you attract, create, and experience on the outside. This is not mystical, it is practical. Insecure people make insecure decisions. Fearful people miss opportunities that confident people walk through without hesitation. The person who feels genuinely worthy acts differently, moves differently, and receives differently than the person who is waiting for something outside to make them feel worthy. Reclaiming your inner authority means making a decision that your peace is not for sale. That your worth is not determined by your bank account, your follower count, your relationship status, or anyone else's opinion of your choices. That you can choose your internal state right now, regardless of what your external circumstances are doing. This is not delusion, it is discipline, the highest form of discipline, and it is the foundation of everything else. When you are genuinely grounded in your own authority, you make better decisions because fear is no longer the loudest voice in the room. You take bigger risks because your worth is no longer tied to the outcome. You show up more fully in every area of your life because you are no longer performing for approval. And people feel that solidity in you and are drawn to it in ways they cannot always explain. Before you check your phone tomorrow morning, before you look at your messages or your notifications or any signal from the outside world, pause and ask yourself how you choose to feel right now, not how you are expected to feel, not how your circumstances would suggest you should feel, how you choose to feel. Then let that choice be the foundation for everything that follows. Say it with conviction if you feel it. I am the author of my own experience. The fifth principle is the courage of strategic stillness. We live inside a culture that has made an enemy of stillness, that has confused constant movement with progress, that treats busyness as a badge of seriousness and patience as a character flaw. If you are not hustling, you are falling behind. If you are not posting, you are invisible. If you are not pushing, you must not want it badly enough. The Stoics would recognize this pattern immediately, and they would identify it for what it is. Anxiety wearing the costume of ambition. There is a profound and often overlooked difference between forced action and aligned action. Forced action comes from anxiety. It is doing something, anything, because stillness feels unbearable and inaction feels like failure. It is movement without direction, effort without purpose. Busyness that exhausts you without building anything real. Aligned action comes from an entirely different place. It comes from clarity, from the kind of quiet knowing that only arrives when your mind is settled enough to hear it. Think about the master chess player. They do not move pieces simply to be seen moving pieces. They observe the entire board. They feel the patterns forming beneath the surface of what is visible. They wait with complete patience for the moment when the right move reveals itself, and when it does, they act with precision and confidence. Their stillness was never the absence of strategy. It was the strategy itself. Some things cannot be rushed. Seeds need to germinate in darkness before they ever break through the surface. Ideas need silence before they become clarity. Relationships need time before they become the kind of trust that carries real weight. When you force what is not ready, you damage what you are trying to build. You pull the seedling out of the soil before its roots have formed, and then wonder why it died in your hands. Strategic stillness means having the courage to step back when you have genuinely done your part. To trust the process you have already set in motion. To sit with the discomfort of not knowing exactly when and how things will arrive, without letting that discomfort drive you back into frantic, exhausting, counterproductive action. This week, pay attention to the actions you are taking, not because they are right, but because stopping feels uncomfortable. Those are the moves that cost more energy than they create. Stillness is not empty. It is where clarity lives, and clarity, applied with precision at the right moment, is the most powerful force you can bring to any area of your life. The sixth principle is gratitude as a creative force. Most people treat gratitude as a polite response to good fortune, something you feel when things go well, something you express at holidays and in thank you notes, a pleasant emotion that arises naturally when life is kind and disappears when it is not. The Stoics understood it as something far more fundamental than that, as a discipline, as a practice with real, practical power to change the conditions of your life. Gratitude is the act of operating from abundance before the abundance fully arrives in its physical form. When you genuinely appreciate what you already have, not as a performance, not as a forced affirmation, but as a real shift in where you place your attention, you change the frequency from which you are operating. You stop broadcasting lack and start radiating fullness. And what you radiate is always reflected back in the texture and quality of the experiences your life creates. Marcus Aurelius began many of his mornings by acknowledging the difficulty of the human beings around him, not pretending they were perfect, not ignoring the betrayals and frustrations and disappointments, but choosing to find understanding for them anyway, choosing to see the beauty of what was working rather than cataloging what was broken. That discipline of attention, repeated every single morning, is what kept one of the most powerful and most pressured men in history stable, clear, and effective. True Stoic gratitude does not pretend everything is fine. It does not require you to bypass reality or wear a smile over genuine pain. It is the practice of finding what is real and good within your actual honest circumstances. Your challenges are making you stronger in ways that comfort never could. Your setbacks are building in you a depth of character that ease would never develop. Your struggles are teaching you lessons that books and advice cannot reach. There is something in every day worth genuinely appreciating if you are willing to look for it rather than waiting for it to announce itself. When you begin and end each day in that orientation, you are not just practicing positive thinking. You are training your mind to notice opportunity where others only see obstacles, to find the opening where others only see the wall. That is not philosophy. That is a practical advantage in a world where most people are so focused on what is missing that they walk right past what is available. The seventh principle is emotional sovereignty. Your emotions are not happening to you. They are being created by you. They are arising from within your own system, shaped by your interpretations, your beliefs, your stories about what things mean. And until you genuinely understand that distinction and begin to live by it, they will continue to direct your life from a place below your conscious awareness. Seneca wrote that a mind which seeks truth turns from the new and unknown toward the eternal and the deep. The reactive mind is always chasing the next stimulus, always being swept along by the current of whatever feeling just arrived, always mistaking its emotional weather for permanent reality, confusing how it feels in this moment with the truth about what is possible in the next. The sovereign mind knows better. Consider two people facing the exact same experience, the same rejection from a business partner, the same financial loss, the same disappointment in a relationship they trusted. One person crumbles, They take it as evidence of their unworthiness. They spiral into self-doubt that lasts for months and colors every decision they make afterward with fear. The other person feels the emotion fully, completely, without suppression. And then they ask what it is telling them, learn what they can from it, and use the energy of it to build something better than what they lost. The difference between these two people is not the circumstance, it is emotional authority. Emotional sovereignty does not mean becoming numb. It does not mean suppressing your feelings or pretending negative emotions do not exist. That kind of suppression does not eliminate the emotion. It drives it underground, where it makes decisions for you without your knowledge. Sovereignty means something entirely different. It means feeling fully and completely without surrendering the direction of your life to the feeling. You acknowledge the anger without letting it choose your words. You honor the fear without letting it make your decisions. You sit with the grief without letting it rewrite your story about what is possible. Your emotions are messengers. They carry precise information about what matters to you, where your attention is needed, and what your system is responding to beneath the surface. They are designed to inform you, not to command you. Listen to them, take the message seriously, and then choose how to respond rather than simply allowing the feeling to determine your next move. That pause between feeling something and acting on it is where your sovereignty lives, and every time you use it, you grow stronger. If you are stepping into that power, say it in the comments, "My emotions exist, but they do not control me." The eighth principle is the philosophy of enough. Seneca wrote these words from a position of extraordinary material wealth. He was one of the richest men in the Roman Empire. He understood money, success, and status from the inside, and from that position, having experienced everything the world said should produce happiness, he concluded, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Read that again, because this is not a sentiment about simplicity or minimalism. This is a precise observation about the internal condition from which most people pursue everything they want. When you are always operating from more, you are always operating from lack. You have achieved the thing you told yourself would make you feel secure, but the goalposts have moved. Now there is another level, another milestone, another validation that your mind has decided you need before you are finally allowed to feel like enough. And so you spend your life chasing a feeling that your own mindset is structurally designed to prevent you from reaching. No external achievement can fill an internal void. The Stoics knew this, and most people learn it only after decades of exhausting pursuit. But here is what shifts when you genuinely embrace the philosophy of enough, not as a resignation, not as a lowering of your ambitions, but as a real recognition that the sense of abundance you are working so hard to create externally is actually available to you internally right now. When you genuinely feel that what you have right now is enough to build from, you stop operating from desperation. You stop making the anxious decisions that push opportunities away. You stop repelling the very things you want by the energy of grasping with which you pursue them. And from that internal place of genuine enough, you begin to attract from a completely different energy. The energy of someone who is adding to a life that is already rich, rather than trying to fill a life that feels empty. This is the foundation of true abundance, and it is available to you before a single external thing changes. Tonight, before you sleep, take 5 minutes. Not to review your goals or plan your next move, simply to honestly feel how much is already here. Your health, your mind, your capacity to think these thoughts and feel these feelings and build towards something better. That richness is real, and it is the foundation that everything else grows from. If you are done chasing and ready to receive, let the comments know, "I am enough, and I attract from that place." The ninth principle is authentic expression. One of the most invisible and most costly blocks to manifesting what you truly want is the enormous energy drain of performing a version of yourself that is not real. When you are constantly editing who you are based on who you think others need you to be, when you are adjusting your opinions and your values and your ambitions to fit into spaces that were never designed for the real you, you are burning through energy that could be building your life. You are creating a constant internal friction between who you actually are and who you are presenting to the world. And that friction does not stay internal. It manifests externally as stagnation, confusion, and the strange feeling that you are working hard, but nothing is quite right. Marcus Aurelius wrote that he avoided tremendous trouble simply by not concerning himself with what his neighbor said or did, not by ignoring everyone, by no longer needing their approval as the basis for his choices. The freedom to live according to your own values rather than the expectations of others is not just psychological relief, it is clarity. It is the removal of a massive amount of noise that was drowning out your own signal. Authenticity is not the absence of discretion. You do not need to share every thought and feeling with every person in your life. But your core decisions, your direction, your daily choices about where to give your time and energy and attention, these need to come from what is genuinely true for you, not from what looks impressive, not from what earns the most approval, from what actually aligns with who you are and where you are honestly trying to go. When you begin to live authentically, something strange happens. The opportunities that were designed for the performed version of yourself start to fall away. And in their place come the people, circumstances, and experiences that actually fit the real you. That transition can feel like loss at first, but it is not loss. It is alignment. And the life that gets built from alignment is the only kind of life that actually satisfies. Have one conversation this week where you say what you actually think rather than what you imagine the other person wants to hear. Make one decision based purely on what you genuinely want rather than what you think you should want. Notice the shift in how that feels. That feeling is available to you in every area of your life, and it costs nothing except the willingness to be honest. The 10th principle is trust in the timing of your life. This is the hardest of the 10, not because it requires the most effort, because it requires the least. And we have been so thoroughly trained to believe that struggle is the price of everything good, that a path which asks us simply to trust feels like the most radical and uncomfortable thing we can do. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." The Stoics believed in a purposeful universe, one governed not by random chaos, but by a rational order that serves something larger than our individual perspectives. Your impatience is not urgency, it is resistance. It is your limited vantage point insisting that it knows better than the larger intelligence that is moving through your life right now. Think honestly about the best things that have ever happened to you. How many of them arrived exactly when you expected them? How many of them came through the paths you carefully planned? Most of the defining moments of any meaningful life come as surprises, through doors you were not even looking for. At times, when you had stopped forcing and started simply moving forward with faith, because something in you had finally grown ready to receive what was already on its way. Delays are not denials. That rejection you are still carrying hurt you because you could not yet see what it was protecting you from. That door that closed with no explanation was clearing the path for an opening that would not have been possible while that one was still consuming your energy. The no that felt like the end was the beginning of something you could not yet see from where you were standing. This does not mean you stop working. Trusting divine timing is not the same as waiting passively for life to deliver what you want. It means you do your part with full commitment and then surrender the outcome with genuine grace. not the performance of grace, while you are secretly gripping and controlling from the inside. Real grace, the kind that comes from genuinely trusting that something larger than your anxiety is at work. The universe is not ignoring you, it is not punishing you, it is moving at a frequency and on a timeline that your fear simply cannot access. And every time you try to force what is not ready, you are not accelerating the process. You are adding resistance to it. Settle into this truth. Do your work. Hold your vision clearly. Take your next step and release your grip on exactly how and when everything arrives. That is where the miracles live, not in the forcing, in the trusting. These 10 principles are not a checklist to complete and put aside. They are a way of being that you grow into over time. Detached desire, present moment clarity, resistance as your teacher, inner authority, strategic stillness, gratitude as a creative force, emotional sovereignty, the philosophy of enough, authentic expression, and trust in divine timing. Separately, they are ideas, but lived together, practiced daily in the small, invisible moments that no one is watching, they become a complete transformation in how you move through the world, in how you relate to everything you want, in what you attract simply by the quality of presence you bring to each day. The Stoics did not manifest through force. They manifested through alignment, through becoming, through consistent daily practice, the kind of person that good things are naturally drawn toward. Through removing the internal resistance, the fear, the desperation, the noise that was blocking what was already on its way. You do not need to hustle harder, you need to align deeper. The life you are working toward is not being withheld from you. It is moving toward you at the speed of your own readiness. Your job is to become someone worthy of receiving it, and then to have the wisdom and the courage to get out of your own way. If this video shifted something in you, like it, share it with someone who needs this message right now, and subscribe for more wisdom like this. And to seal everything you have received today, leave this in the comments. I relax, I trust, and I receive. Until next time, stay stoic, stay strong, and stay open to everything that is already coming your way.